right, everybody, welcome to another podcast with Be Vital. I'm your host, Marcia Hawkins, along with Stephanie Nascimento, owner of Be Vital in Hadley, Massachusetts. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, Marcia. How are you?
I'm great. I always feel better when I talk to you. I love when we get on a call and we start talking about stuff that we're very much of like minds, which is, I'm sure, why our paths have crossed, and they were meant to for sure. So today,
Exactly.
I'm really excited because we are getting at Elevate Living Studio, even we're getting a lot of inquiries about the peptide therapies that we can help people learn more about. So today I was hoping that we could talk about maybe like the 5 or 6 most popular peptide therapies, what they are, what they can do, and who's the perfect candidate for them. So yeah, let's get started.
Oh, that's great. Sure. Okay. Well, as many of you have probably heard, there's so many. There's so many out there now. And there are definitely 5 that I would say are my favorite to use in practice and for myself. So we can start with that.
That would be
Uh,
great.
Okay. So anti-aging, weight loss, and even immunity, they're all very interconnected. So I think all 5 of my favorites kind of work on all different parts of the body, increasing health span, increasing the way you look and feel. So I'm gonna start with the GLPs because that seems to be the one that there's a lot of misinformation on and it can get really, really confusing. And I'm gonna try to just kind of simplify that if that sounds okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there are the GLP-1 and GIP based therapies. They're injections and they now come in oral drops. The injections are once a week and the oral drops are daily. So that is something that people get very confused about. They think that oral drops are just once a week as well. No, unfortunately, I wish that were true, but they are not. They're daily. So you have your injections, and those injections work on the endocrine system. And what does that mean? Because that's a whole system that regulates your body's metabolism. And so by taking these, you are supporting appetite regulation. You're supporting whether or not you're full or satiated. So these peptides, what they do is they help maintain fullness. So that sensation of feeling full and satiated while increasing your metabolism.
So it kind of shuts off that craving, that food noise you're constantly fighting.
Absolutely. I just had a patient yesterday send me a text saying that they have never in their life experienced this kind of quiet in their head. And they are so elated and they are just so relieved that they're not constantly thinking about food. And for some people, they actually experience just less noise in general. So that you're not having as many ping pong thoughts simultaneously. It kind of helps that quiet all of the noise, but in particular, food noise and alcohol noise.
Interesting. I have a friend of mine who's a doctor in Rhode Island had mentioned to me that, which I definitely need to reach out to her about this, that they're starting to see studies where it's shutting off the alcohol craving for people. How amazing would that be?
Absolutely. And not just alcohol, other substances too. So this is very exciting in medicine.
Well, I want to circle back just for a quick second. And I don't mean to digress here, but you said something interesting at the top of it when you were talking about how there are so many peptide therapies. And I just want to, for our listening audience, to understand this is specifically why we're doing this podcast. Because, Stephanie, what I really truly believe is that people go online and they get the information. And I believe the stumbling block, the speed bump, if you will, for people not, seeking out someone to help them obtain the GLP-1s or the peptide therapies is because they don't know where to begin. And no,
Yes.
absence of information makes the mind go negative. So people are going on there and they're looking at, literally 50 different peptides. Maybe I'm embellishing, but they're looking at a screen full of different peptides and they have absolutely no idea where to begin. The other stumbling block that I think people have is the injection. And I'm here to tell you, it's like a mosquito bite. That's all it is. It's like a mosquito
Yes.
bite. It's not bad. So let's get back to the peptides. But I did want to point that out before I forgot, because I think that is specifically why people they just don't do it, because they don't know where to begin. And so we're here to tell you we can get you started. So let's talk about the next peptide that is like one of the top five.
Okay, great. So I think we spoke about this one in a previous podcast. It's your MOTS-C, that is MOTS-C. This is a stellar peptide. I do feel like, other than copper peptide, it might be my favorite. Those two are kind of competing in my favorites. The MOTS-C, that is for mitochondrial health. And, a lot of people don't know what the mitochondria is, right?
Mhm.
That is the organelle in every cell. So it's a very important thing in every cell that we have in our bodies. And they're like little power plants inside the cell. So they are responsible for creating energy out of our food, essentially. So we can't have mitochondria in our cells and have them not work properly, or we're going to be having symptoms like fatigue, difficulty losing weight, difficulty sleeping. There's a lot of signs, because often people will tell me, well, how do I know if my mitochondria are dysfunctional? And that will show up mostly in energy and inability to lose weight.
Interesting. So what damages the mitochondria?
Living, existing, exactly. We're using them every day and they're working hard for our bodies. So if we working them extra hard, they're going to fatigue and they might dysfunction more easily. I know we often reference cars, right? So the more mileage we put on our vehicle, the more likely we are to have things break. And this is one of those things that can start to malfunction. But there's a lot of different ways to get them up and running again. So it's not all bad news. Just existing isn't bad news. We can definitely bring back that mitochondrial health. And this is a wonderful way to do it.
Does poor diet, alcohol, lack of exercise, does that all contribute to the breakdown of the mitochondria?
Yes, and some of it, those things absolutely contribute. So the more abuse, if you would, for lack of a better word, that you do to your body, it is going to affect your mitochondria, absolutely. And
Interesting.
there are viral impacts too. So viral, bacterial, genetic, those things do impact as well.
So just to recap, so the mitochondria is like the little power plant inside of every single cell that you have that kind of controls the energy, if you will, to get that cell active again and get you feeling better. Is that a good analogy?
Yes. Yes, I think that's good.
Okay, that's great. I like before we jumped on air, I really wanted to granulate down specifically what these peptides do in layman's terms so that people can hear it and understand it and relate to it. Because I do believe that when people understand something, they're much more likely to incorporate it once they fully understand it. So your explanations are absolutely beautiful. So the MOTS-C, I definitely have to try that. I don't
Oh,
feel
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't really feel tired or whatever. But I also know that just as we age, it's just, yeah, I mean, I think of the energy. I have a lot of energy. I really do. But even for me, I notice some days, oh gosh, not firing 100%. So
Yes.
definitely want to look at that.
MOTS-C and NAD plus are sort of similar in a lot of ways. And I think more people have heard of NAD than the MOTS-C. They might be a little bit more familiar with that. And they do similar things, even with cognition, memory. And I didn't mention that about MOTS-C, but it does help that as well. So if you are feeling like you are not having good mental ability, mental capacity, it might be from the dysfunctional mitochondria.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in full disclosure, Stephanie, a couple weeks ago, you did administer a NAD drip on me, and it took a long time, which was totally fine.
Mhm.
But I think I expressed to you just the mental clarity, and I don't really have any cognitive issues that I'm aware of. But what I noticed about it was everything I did had such a precision and efficiency to it. And I don't think I articulated that to you, but in retrospect and thinking about how I felt 2 weeks after I had the drip, that's kind of what I experienced. I remember doing a podcast and I was talking about efficiency. And I'm big on these 3x5 index cards. They're kind of like my roadmap of what I do every day. And I had to laugh because it's the beginning of the year. And like, I'm sure you have continuing ed with certain things that you have. And in my profession, I have a lot of the continuing ed as well. And I'm like, I'm not a procrastinator by any stretch, but I noticed that my to-do list and some of the things that were on there that were not pressing, like continuing ed requirements and getting this done and that. I mean, I had a pretty extensive list, and I wish I could show you because I can't right now, but there's nothing on that list. Like everything is done that I had mapped out that I needed to accomplish for the year, and it's like done.
Lovely.
Yeah, I mean, and like record time, and I'm pretty diligent about stuff. I'm not a procrastinator, but I felt like after that NAD drip that or the NAD, I just felt as though the clarity and everything I did felt like it was done with, like I said, clarity, precision,
That's great.
timely, like everything just worked better. So
Yeah, that's
highly,
great.
highly recommend NAD. So I just wanted to give that plug only because in full disclosure, I have done the NAD and I think it's amazing, an
Oh,
amazing, amazing peptide.
yes, I love that one as well. And yeah, I think it's just slightly more known than the Motzi, but they're both amazing. And remember, NAD is sort of like the spark plug. It helps run that engine. Cells are the factories, and the mitochondria is the power plant. And Motzi is like plugging in your charger of the mitochondria, and the NAD is the spark plug. So I don't know if that kind of helps imagine how they all work together, but it's really all about turning food into energy and repairing the damage of the cell.
Amazing. That's just such a vivid analogy. Got to plug your phone charger in to get things going. It makes
Yes.
everyone can relate to that too. Can
Right.
we talk a little bit about the BPC 157? Because I have done that and I just had my son order it. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's one that I think some people know about, but I don't think it's on the lips and ears of most people.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. It's funny because these things are, just letters thrown around and some numbers, right? But they all mean something. And when you look at the name, like what those letters actually stand for, what the acronym is, they're kind of self explanatory. So BPC is body protection compound.
Oh, how easy.
Yeah, so that's a good way to understand. Okay, what does that do? It is a small peptide, right? It's just a few amino acids, and it's actually made in our stomach acid. So it's a protective protein that's found in our stomach acid. And what it does is it helps the body repair and heal. So again, body protection compound, it repairs and heals tissue. It can be used alone. It can help with muscle injuries, ligament damage and joint recovery, but not just tissue healing. It also helps gut health. Now, that's where we normally find it, right? We find it in the gut, in the acids, but it is actually responsible for healing the digestive lining of our stomach. So usually, even with any kind of plants, you find a plant where its function is. So like St. John's wort is often found on the side of the road because that is a very difficult place for plants to live. And so when it's ingested in the body, St. John's wort actually helps the body flourish and when the environment is not very compatible. So it's kind of an interesting thing is that if there's a substance that's naturally found somewhere, it's often there's a reason, there's a link. And that is a perfect example with BPC. It's found in the gut and it is the best thing to heal the digestive lining of your stomach.
Oh, I just such a clear what, and yeah, like I said, my son ordered it. Our avenues where people can actually get these peptides, and he's really excited because he's some serious health issues, but minor. And of course, that's the best time to nip these things in the bud when you're first starting to feel symptomatic. And he really felt that maybe his gut lining. One of the things he was doing, he was drinking copious amounts of water. And, we're
Mm.
all told water, drink your water. But what a lot of people don't realize is that if you drink too much water, it's just as bad for you of not drinking enough water. And he felt like maybe he was just really diluting his stomach acid down. And I think sometimes people forget about that. And it's like anything, and we talk about this, everything in moderation. And if you can kind of self regulate that, sometimes you won't get into some of the health issues that you can by what you think is a good thing necessarily may not be.
Oh, yes. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to know all of these things, and you hear one thing, okay, this is really good for us, but you can either overconsume it or not pairing it with the right things can be inhibiting its benefit. Like water often has to be paired with those electrolytes for real hydration.
Yeah, that's interesting because I actually have a friend who did the same thing. She got big into coffee enemas and drinking too much water, and she actually put herself in her heart arrhythmia was off. Luckily, her husband
Mm.
EMT realized what was going on, started an IV on her, and then transported her. And she ended up having to spend the night in the hospital.
Oh
So
my
that,
goodness.
yeah, that's a true story. So sometimes what appears to be a really good thing may not necessarily be all that you need, and maybe just do things in moderation. But Stephanie,
That's right.
people, so at Be Vital, they can book an appointment with you. So why don't you give your contact information?
Sure. Okay. So we are at 226 Russell Street, Suite C in Hadley, Massachusetts. That is right across from Sam's. If anyone knows Route 9, they'll know where we are. And our phone number here is 413-387-0219. And you can also email us at info@bevitalwellness.com or just find us on our website, bevitalwellness.com.
Excellent, excellent. And yes, and you also, I'm sure, are available to do consultations via Zoom, over the phone. If they're not local to the area or traveling to Hadley might be an issue, they can always
Yeah,
that way and set up a Zoom appointment, I'm assuming.
you bet. Absolutely. We do telehealth all the time.
Excellent. Gotta love technology, right?
Yes.
All right, everybody. You've been listening to the Be Vital podcast. I'm your host, Marcia Hawkins, along with the owner, Stephanie Nascimento. And today we covered 5 of the top peptides and trying to give you, the listener, clarity on what each one can do for you. But more importantly, I would encourage you to reach out to Stephanie to learn more for your specific situation and what you're trying to accomplish on your road to wellness, health, and vitality. So I encourage you to reach out to her. She is an absolute gem and very well versed in what she does. All right, until next week when Stephanie and I come back with another power packed episode of Be Vital podcast. Until then, make it a healthy week.